Hi everyone, so I'm Joseph, and today I want to talk about the importance of the hero's journey. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because recently at my workplace, I just noticed that a lot of individuals, whenever something bad goes on or an obstacle pops up, we sometimes struggle with overcoming those obstacles. But I think the important part to keep in mind is the attempt to actually overcome that obstacle. So the reason why I'm bringing up the hero's journey is just because I'm not a I'm not a big fan of most of the popular pop culture stories that are out there. Like for example, since it just recently won Everything Everywhere All at Once. While I do enjoy the story itself, I just think the subject matter of the story kind of pushes a theme that we shouldn't be chasing and so the overall theme of that movie just focusing on the now, focusing on what you have and being happy with that. I think that's really important to keep in mind. But what I'm talking about is just not taking into regard how you came to that conclusion. So, and I know I'm overthinking this, and I do my background is in English literature, so I'm an English major. So one of those the box is too blue. But when it comes to everything everywhere all at once, I think an important factor that a lot of people don't take into account is the fact that when they go into different alternate realities of themselves. Oh, so obviously spoilers, right? Just keep that in mind. But when these characters they go to different alternate realities of themselves, excuse me, alternate realities of themselves, they're going into someone else, another person. For example, if another universe went into my body, the Joseph Michael speaking to you will not be the same Joseph Michael. It'll be a different Joseph. And maybe they'll want to discuss the same thing, or maybe they'll want to discuss something differently. The point is, though, is that it's not me, it's someone else. And by the end of that movie, I think it's important to keep in mind that the main cast, correct me if I'm wrong about this, please do, because maybe I misunderstood it, but the main cast at the end of the movie, they're not in their original universes. They're now in a new universe where they've essentially replaced their selves in that universe. Their regular universe, the IRS universe, those individuals, they come back into their own selves and they come back to their own consciousness. I mean, like a really silly, simple example would be that one individual who jumps on top of a an object that's sexualized, right? That person did not choose to do that, but when the archon itself goes away from that individual, the individual is going to be like, well, what's going on? And they were even bleeding from down there as well, right? That's actually kind of, crappy a little bit, right? I would hate it if I'm just right here talking, then all of a sudden another entity goes into me, and when I come back, I'm like outside completely naked, holding a weapon of some sort. I'm like, whoa, what occurred over here? And I'm being arrested, right? Why do I deserve these consequences? I did not do this. So that's just an aspect that I'm not the biggest fan of. And another example would be, and I know a lot of people might really hate me about this, but Avengers Endgame. One one theme I don't like about that movie. So the overall theme, so what is the overall theme of Avengers Endgame? I guess working together, not giving up, right? Well, you guys might be thinking, well, Joseph, aren't you a hypocrite? You just said determination is important. They're doing what you're saying, yet you're saying that it's not good. What are you talking about? I'm talking about specifically the fact that they didn't get over their loss. So when it came to Infinity War, Thanos against borders, Thanos wins and everyone disappears. The Avengers that have expanded, they disappear. We just have our original cast of Avengers, right? And as horrible as it sounds, Thanos, he won. He won fair and square. And again, I know this is a perspective not a lot of people may have, but I do feel a little bit bad for Thanos because he's just at his new little farmstead minding his own business, and the Avengers come in and they kill him, right? Even though he won fair and square. That would be like the equivalent of, yeah, I know it sucks, but if one is taking like an interview, they're able to afford it because they're privileged, getting assistance, getting not a tutor, but a personal like speaking trainer, public speaking trainer to help prepare them versus the other individual who may not have that. Yes, it's unfair, but they were able to get that position fair and square, right? Thanos made the choice to spend a big chunk of his life to seek out the Infinity Stones, and he ends up succeeding in what he does. And then he's just at his own homestead, and the Avengers come and they kill him. And why do they kill him? Because they're not satisfied with the outcome. And even after that, they're still not satisfied with the outcome. I believe it's 7 years or 5 years after the death of Thanos, and it gets revealed that most of the Avengers they're living their lives still, but a lot of people are still suffering from the consequences of the quote unquote the snap, right? that Thanos does. What I don't like about this movie, and I know it needed to happen because all these casts needed to return because the movie needs to continue. Not the movie, but the MCU needs to continue. But what I didn't like is the fact that the Avengers, instead of utilizing coping skills to have a healthy um, reaction to this outcome, they instead landed on it for an unhealthy amount of time. And even when Captain America tries to be positive, right? Oh, I'm noticing the wells, they're coming back into the Hudson Bay. He's shot down. He's not supported. And again, I understand why, but it's not like it barely happened to snap. It's been at least 3 years now, and that's just not healthy and also unrealistic. And what way in the real world can we alter reality to change a mistake that we did in the past? We can't do that, right? And also in the MCU, we're seeing that there's consequences from doing that action with the whole the TVA or whatever. I don't watch the MCU shows, but I'm aware about what's going on. But if one watches it, they know what I mean, right? So let's go back to the hero's journey. The reason why I just feel like in popular culture today, a lot of the hero's journey, they're just not focused on the correct elements. I think I'm going to be focusing right now on video games. I think about games like Destiny and Halo, especially Halo, for example, with Halo Reach, where it's a tragedy. It's a tragic story. It literally quite ends in failure. Yet, despite that, it's not a failure. The main goal of the end of that game was to protect Reach. Thus, they did fail that. But was the second objective was to get the Pillar of Autumn with a secret package, a package that will be helpful safely away from Reach. And that's an aspect that Noble team did succeed in, despite excuse me, despite losing their lives. And that might seem negative, but what analogy can we apply that in the real world? Well, we have to do personal sacrifices. For example, if one knows they have a presentation at their job that's coming up, what does one do? Do they work on it during the weekend, or do they make the choice to go hang out with their friends, to go to the club, to go to a concert, whatever it may be, and then be a little bit hungover or be a little bit tired the next day, mentally tired, than not being able to work on your project, right? That's what I mean. Doing some sacrifice in order to accomplish something grander. Yes, you had to sacrifice hanging out your social aspect, but the objective of your professional life, that was achieved. And I just feel like a lot of individuals today, whenever something doesn't go their way, instead of not adapting, because we should always keep ourselves in mind, but instead of utilizing our own skills to overcome that obstacle, I just feel like too often we use that obstacle as an excuse, or we use that obstacle as an excuse. I can't complete this because of this factor. What can I do about that? And it's just like, well, why can't I answer that question for you? What can you do about that? You need to self-reflect and to think about that, right? Another example about this would be from Halo. So when it comes to Halo, the Master Chief, things kept popping up like the flood, right? Him and the Pillar of Autumn are running away in the first Halo or doing a strategic retreat from the Covenant, and now they're on survival mode, just trying to regroup and survive the hunts that's going on from the Covenant. They're hunting down human survivors on the ring world of Halo, and then lo and behold, we discovered that there's another alien species known as the Flood. And the Master Chief, instead of just running away from these obstacles, he confronts them, right? And even when he's separated from Cortana and he doesn't have Cortana with him, he's working with B43 Guilty Spark. He makes the choice to continue pushing forward, even though it could have been quite easy to not push forward at all, to just go away and excuse me, that was the cap of my water bottle. My finger got caught on the I don't know what the carrier bit. The Master Chief doesn't detach himself from the situation, and it's just a factor that I just wanted to really discuss, just because when I watch more popular culture movies, not on the same theme, but on the same idea, like disaster artists, for example. Our society during that time was saying that mental health was important. We should be supporting people. But if we watch disaster artists, I would argue that we're not laughing with Tommy Wiseau, excuse me, I mispronounced his name, but rather we're laughing at him. And I can't help but feel a little bit bad for Tommy Wiseau, and also for the character within that movie as well. Because by the time it ends, people are laughing at him, and it's looking like, that's not good for one's mental health, but he ends up accepting it. But is that really what one wants to do, the message you want to pass on? Since people are laughing at you, laugh at yourself with them, instead of acknowledging what's the issue and try to understand each other's perspective. I know my movie sucks, But this is what I was attempting to do, right? Why are you laughing at that? Anyway, when I say I'm talking about from the perspective of Wisu, or Waisu, excuse me. Excuse me, that clearing my throat. But yeah, that's just been something that I've been thinking about. First, because recently I've been playing retro games. I recently got the Castlevania Anniversary Collection, and again Belmont. I don't recall the first Belmont's name, his first name, but I do know his last name is Belmont. He makes the choice to go confront Dracula. He doesn't run away from that. And when he confronts Dracula, and there's all these other mini bosses, right, like the Frankenstein monster, the bat, the Medusa head. Belmont doesn't go, oh, well, I didn't sign up for this. I was not aware that there was going to be all these other kind of creatures. I'm just here for Dracula, so I'm out of here. This is not my problem. um, and then also the weapons that one picks up, right? That's the action of adapting to this new obstacle. As well, if my whip is not going to work in this situation, let me go ahead and utilize his boomerang. Let me go ahead and utilize his axe. Excuse me. So, excuse me. Pardon me, everyone. So that's just been an aspect that I've been thinking about. I'm trying to think about TV shows or a movie where I could use an example because I did use two movies. But unfortunately, right now I'm not drawing any. Well, I guess another example because I watched it recently would be Chronicle, when Matt's character encounters his cousin. Unfortunately, I can't recall his name. Garrity. Garrity and no, that's Matt's last name. I can't recall the other character's last name, unfortunately. But when they fight one another, he doesn't want to kill his own cousin, but he realizes that in order to overcome this obstacle, the obstacle being not hurting innocent people, not destroying the community, he realizes that unfortunately it's an action that he needs to take. And after he does it, he could have lamented on that action and allowed it to eat at him. But he makes a choice to do something positive and to continue pushing forward. Unfortunately, we never got a sequel to that movie, and if I had gotten one, maybe I could have used that as more textual evidence, or maybe it could have been counter evidence to the points that I'm making. Maybe Matt would have succumbed to his to his mindset that it was his fault about what occurred, right? But so that's just been something I've been thinking about, just the hero's journey. Oh, so why I'm all talking about these different properties without connecting it back to the hero's journey? Excuse me. So why am I mentioning the hero's journey in the first place? In case one is unaware, the hero's journey is an archetype where the main character, something occurs to them where they end up failing, and at that point, that's actually part of the story. After they fail, the choice to keep pushing forward, that's where us, the audience, that's what we're witnessing. Really simple examples of this would be Avatar: The Last Airbender. Aang, he's running away. He's failed his duty as the Avatar. Another example would be Star Wars: Luke Skywalker, when he goes back to his uncle and aunt's home. His family has now just passed away due to the astromech droids that he's picked up. He's at his lowest point. He's failed his family. And now he has a choice to either do something about that or not do anything about that, right? So the hero's journey is just taking into account obstacles that makes one, that deters one from attaining their objective. But what makes it a journey is how one reacts to that obstacle. And so that's why I wanted to discuss the hero's journey. I do feel if more people focus on stories with characters that just self-reflected and made the choice to overcome external factors, we'll probably have better role models to utilize at our workplace and to utilize at our school place as well, our personal place. And again, I know it sounds silly because one might be thinking, oh, well, literature is just literature. How could you be talking about them as if they're real people? But I think oftentimes people forget that the whole purpose of literature is for the human experience. The reason why we read these stories is to allow us to see perspectives. Oh, so this is what will happen if I chose to do drugs. This is what will happen if I chose to have not gone to higher education or whatever. This is what would have happened if I chose to go into a life of crime, right? We don't need to become gangsters ourselves. We don't need to become mob bosses ourselves because we could watch The Sopranos. We could watch Bugsy Malone about the gangster lifestyle, right? Symbolically and so forth. But yeah, those are just my thoughts about today's stories when it comes to the hero's journey and the themes that they have. If you have any thoughts of your own, please feel free to share them with me. I'd love to have a conversation about this. And have a great day. Thank you so much for listening. I really do appreciate it. Take care.